Greetings and salutations to all of you lovely, beautiful listeners out there, fluffy, non-fluffy, and especially adorable, every single one of you. I am currently sitting in my car and recording this on my phone because I lost track of time. So I am parked up in front of a friend's house because I have a friend visiting from out of state, and we're going to be going to have some fun, going to dinner here in a minute. But I wanted to take a few minutes to chat with you all and give you some updates. And where have we been? So here we are. The biggest thing that happened recently is I went to A&E. I went to Anthro Northeast, and that was a lot of fun. It was definitely that con was so much fun. It gave me a lot of dopamine, and it was just a great time. And for those of you who don't know, it's held in BAWSTON, Massachusetts, and I had never been before. This is my first time ever being at that convention, and it was actually a very last minute decision. Like, it was last minute to the point of, like, literally 2 weeks before the con, I had to book my flights, which was not fun. And there's a bit of a story. There's a bit of a story to that as well. And as you can hear, I have a bit of con crud afterwards. So apologies in advance if I let out a little bit of percolation, a few coughs here and there, but I'm okay. It's just this stubborn cough is kind of plaguing me right now, but it shouldn't be too bad. So anyway, the flight process was a nightmare. I decided to fly JetBlue, which I had never flown on before. It's a whole new experience for me. Their booking process, I didn't understand it. It was a little different than what I'm used to. Like, I usually fly Delta or even United sometimes when I'm traveling from one long distance to another. But yeah, Delta is like the one that I use the most. Say what you want about Delta. It's an okay organization. I don't really have any opinion about it either way. Excuse me. But JetBlue, JetBlue was something. I tried basically 5 different attempts to get my tickets, and it took about 2 days to get them and secure them. And why? Because for some weird reason, their website just did not want to recognize my payment information. I don't know why. I don't really understand why that is. So it got so bad to the point where I actually got a call from the fraud department and my credit union / banking organization telling me that there is some suspicious activity on my payment. And they were like, is this you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, okay, do you plan to purchase this thing again? I was like, yes. And they're like, okay, that's all we needed. Have a good day. And that was it. Click. Right. So it only took 2 minutes to resolve that, apparently, which is weird. I don't know why they just couldn't take it in the first place. But I understand, you try a certain amount of attempts on a payment and it'll lock it out and think that you're trying to get into someone else's account. No, it was just me trying to get into my own. It wasn't even that bad. It was just a pain in the tail. So, just made of is what it was. So, after 2 days of fighting with this, I finally got them, and thankfully, the seats and the flight itself were still available the second day around, because that's the thing about flights, especially in booking. They can disappear in a second. If you're looking at a very specific takeoff, landing, and seat assignment, they can go away as soon as they appear. It's stupid. But neither here nor there. I got my flights, and it all worked out. Yeah. So that was the first step of the challenge to this. But yeah, the con was fantastic. I got to see a lot of friends. I made some new ones. Saw a lot of people that I recognized and a lot of people that I knew, which is always a plus. You know, it's such a treat when you can go to a place that you've never been to before, and yet there's people there that you know, and you feel more comfortable and you feel more at ease, because it can be a little scary going to a place that you've never been before. And I should mention, I have not been to Boston ever in my life, and this was the first time. So first time being at that con, but also first time being in the city that con was taking place in. So I did that, and it was all worth it in the end. I ended up getting a whole room to myself, which was unheard of. I've never had that before. I've never been to a convention where I've had a room all to myself. I can't describe the feeling that I had of just like, wow, this is actually kind of nice. It was nice to just go to the room, and just chill out, and not have to worry about anybody doing anything or being anywhere, and trying to stay on schedule and that kind of thing. So it really felt liberating in a lot of ways. I thought I was going to be kind of lonely, having the room to myself, but honestly, I enjoyed it. I had a ball doing that. So I don't know if I'll continue that trend, because it was a little expensive, but it wasn't terribly bad. So yeah, I got there Friday afternoon at the con, and I should also mention that I had to get up at the crack of everything to get to the airport. A very lovely friend was kind enough to drive me to the airport, so shout out to them for their contribution in making it happen, so thank you. And yeah, getting to the airport and getting through TSA, always a fun time. For some reason, at 6 a.m. in the morning at the airport, the TSA line was back to the wall. I don't know why. It was so bad. It was actually very, it started to put a strain on everything. And not to mention, I, in fact, forgot my bag tags, so that was great. So I had to, had to go back, and I had to print those and get that going and everything, and went down to the TSA line, and they got me all sorted out. So I made it to the gate with about 15 minutes left to spare before boarding happened. So oh my gosh, that was not fun. That put a bit of stress on the situation. And this, I want to mention, this is nobody's fault. It's not, the fact that I got there late or anything. It was just the fact that TSA was just long. Like, it took, I don't know, it felt like a registration line almost. It took many minutes. I wasn't keeping track, but it must have been like 45 minutes at the most to get through that line alone. So if you're ever flying, just keep in mind that you might get a little bit of trouble. So make sure that you have all your affairs in order, especially for TSA. That is the hardest part of a flight, in my opinion. Like, the flying, no problem. The purchasing of the ticket, even though I talked about it being difficult, no comparison to what TSA is like. It's terrible. So yeah, that put another little whammy on the whole trip. I was like, ugh, am I really doing this? I started to have doubts. I'm not going to lie. I started to have doubts about whether or not this is worth it, and like, why am I doing this, and asking myself all these questions. I'm like, why am I doing this? But you know what? I'm kind of sorry that I had those thoughts, because it worked out pretty well. It worked out fairly well, and I'm honestly thankful the way that it worked out. Like, taking the good and the bad, and it made into something amazing. So I cannot complain. I really can. So starting that off pretty well. The flight itself wasn't bad. I was very tired, so I slept most of the flight. It's always a fun adventure when you're sitting next to two other people. You have an aisle seat, which I did, and there's carts going by on your left, and then there's people on your right, so you got to be conscientious, and you got to make sure that they have their space as well as you, and you got to just make sure everybody's comfortable. So yeah. So flew into Boston, and then the next part started of the challenge that this was, as was this trip. Thankfully, the airport that I flew into, Boston Logan, was only a 10-minute drive from the convention center, and I'm super grateful that it was that it was I'm super grateful that it was that close, right? So what do? You call an Uber, and the Uber picks you up, and you go to the convention center. I don't know why I'm explaining to you how Uber works, but in case you're not familiar, Uber is a little, just a little convenience that you can have that saves you from the trouble of a taxi or a bus or anything like that. So I call an Uber, and I get there, and I get to the point where I think I'm supposed to be picked up, and he's not there. It says, your driver has arrived. I'm like, no, he hasn't. And then so I'm messaging and calling the Uber guy, and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at the pickup point. Where are you? He's like, I'm at the pickup point. I'm like, oh, clearly we're not at the same place. So I described to him where I was, and he's like, oh, you're at the drop-off point. I was like, what? Because let me tell you something. Boston Logan Airport, confusing, okay? Very confusing. I was literally standing in an area where there were huge green signs on the columns of the parking garage that said passenger pickup. I'm not joking. It said passenger pickup on these columns. So naturally, that's where you get picked up, right? And he's like, no, here's what you do. You go back in, and then you go to this other parking garage, go down the stairs, and then make a right, and then you should see a pickup point for Uber, Lyft, and other such services. And I was like, are you kidding me? So what's this whole passenger pickup thing? He's like, oh, that's just a drop-off point. I'm like, well, then it should say drop-off. So, fine. So I hightail it. Haha, pun, tail. Excuse me. I hightail it back to the supposed pickup point at that point. That's redundant. I get back in the parking garage that he tells me to go, and I find the garage that he's telling me to go. So he's like, oh, by the way, I can see you. I'm waving at you. And I'm like, what? I can't see a thing. So I'm looking around, and he's still on the phone with me, by the way, and he's waving at me. Like, he's waving both arms. I can't see him. And finally, I just take a leap, and I cross a random place, like a random area, and then I see him. I was like, oh my gosh, there he is. He's all the way down there. Oh, so I rush all the way down. Man. And then I shook his hand. I'm like, I am so sorry for keeping you waiting. I know you probably have other stops. And, I felt bad because I felt like I wasted his time. And that was like 10 whole minutes of just wandering for nothing. So lesson learned. If you're ever in Boston Logan, just remember that there is confusion. But thankfully, there are people to help you out. And I swear this Uber driver was probably one of the nicest people I've ever encountered as far as Uber is concerned. So he was super helpful, super cordial. He was so nice, and like really, because he very well could have just driven off and been like, cancel this ride, I'm gone. And then I would have been stuck with probably a waiting fee or a service charge or something, and then have to get another one, and then had that one, and it would have been a lot more. So I'm very, very grateful to that man for keeping weight, helping me out, guiding me through to where I needed to go. That was huge. So shout out to that guy. Thank you, sir, for helping me out. And naturally, I gave him double in tips what he normally would get, because he did not have to do that. And that just was a good little reminder that there is kindness in the world. There's kind people. There are people who are willing to help and put themselves out there even though they don't have to. And he yeah, he really showed me that day. So, although a little bit of humor did result from the drive, the whole 10 minutes of driving, we were kind of making small talk, like, oh, how long have you been driving, that kind of thing. And like, he asked me what I was here for. I said a convention. He's like, oh, cool. And he didn't really ask me any other questions about it. But that is until we drove up to the front of the hotel where I was staying, and he looked around and he saw all the fursuits and people and tails and all that stuff, the fun stuff that you see at a convention. And he got very quiet. He didn't ask any questions. He just drove the last minute or two to the hotel, pulled up, didn't say a word. So I think he figured it out pretty quick. Like, he didn't like look at me like, oh, you're a weirdo or anything like that. It was more so just, yeah, he put it together, and he didn't press on the matter. So yeah, maybe that's a good thing. But I thought it was kind of funny. So very nice. He helped me unload my bags and said our goodbyes, and that was it. So sorry, sir, if that scared you, but I'm sure you've seen worse, being a driver and all that. So hey, cannot dispute it. So pardon me. So anyway, so I get into my room. I am so grateful for the hotel for doing this for me. My check-in time wasn't for another 3 or so hours, and I just walked up to the counter and I said hi, and I said my name, I'm checking in, and they took my information and they gave me key cards, and I was like, oh my gosh, it actually worked. Like, I didn't say anything about checking in early. I didn't say anything about, yes, I know I'm early, nothing like that. I just played it cool. I just said, hey, I'm here, I'm checking in, give me my cards. And they did. And I would have had to sit for 3 additional hours in the hotel lobby if it wasn't for that nice lady who was kind enough to let me in early. So thank you to the BAWSTON Element Hotel for being so cordial and being so, yeah, just helpful in that situation. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. But so I get into my room, I just kind of drop everything, and I do like that flop on the bed, like, oh my gosh, I made it. And I just celebrated. I was just jumping around in the hotel room like, yes, we did it, we made it. Oh my gosh, Annie, we're here. I'm ready. So I wasted no time. I unpacked everything and I got in my fursuit, and I started immediately. I went over and I checked out the con space. Beautiful con space, by the way. It was in the Westin Hotel in downtown Boston. It's over there by the college. I'm not sure. I think it's Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken. That's over there in that little city block. And yeah, it was so beautiful, just like watching the place just open up in front of you, and like, of course, seeing all the furries, and everybody's having a good time. And yeah, I felt comfortable and right at home immediately. So yeah, I went up to registration. I got thankfully, for being Friday afternoon, there was no line. The line was non-existent. I was able to just get in and get out in less than 2 minutes. So nice, so worth it. Ugh, man, I love when that happens. Sometimes it does pay to come in a little late, occasionally. So I don't regret that. I don't regret my decision of showing up on Friday instead of Thursday. So yeah, got my registration and immediately just started conning. Like, yeah, I was going around, pictures, hugs, everything. And, I got some food and said hi to some people and met some new friends and got a lot of video. Oh my gosh. I even went to a couple panels, which was really nice. I got to see the dance competition. I went to the Fat Furs meet, which was kind of a disappointment, if I'm not going to lie. Also went to the the Hypno Furs meet, and not that I'm necessarily into that or like really, I'm not really like accustomed to such a thing, but I went because I was there to support some friends. So I went, and it was a good time. I got to see them, and I got to meet some new ones. So yeah, it was overall a beautiful time. Let's see. So The next couple of days, all I did, like the entire weekend, is I fursuited. I suited. And yeah, gave lots of hugs, got to meet a lot of people. And that reminds me, I should mention, I got to meet someone very special. I'm not gonna drop their name here because they are very active on the main YouTube channel, but let me just say that this person was so kind and so, like, it was a long time coming getting to meet them. Let's put it that way. They came, literally, I got in suit Saturday morning. I woke up early because I set my alarm because they said that they were going to be at that particular point in time in the lobby at this time from this time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to suit up, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to meet them. So I did. And let me tell you, this was probably the most magical interaction I had ever had when meeting somebody. Oh, man, sorry. It was powerful. I was walking down the little corridor towards the lobby, and they literally came running up to me. And normally when that happens, you get a little scared. About what's about to happen. But they were gentle. I'm grateful for that. But yeah, they literally came running up to me, and they put their arms around me, and they were like, "Samson, it's so good to meet you." And they just started just gushing about how grateful they were. And I was just, honestly, I was kind of stunned. Like, I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was, not in a bad way, just like, oh my gosh, I never thought that this type of thing would ever happen. Like, imagine you playing such a part in somebody's life that the first time you meet them and then you get that reaction from them. Wow. Like, it really does something to you. Like, it really, like, it doesn't even put it into perspective how it feels. It just, there's no words. It was almost a spiritual experience. That's how I feel about it. It felt like almost out of body. Like, there was a special, beautiful moment that we were just having together, and we had that, in that moment. And they were telling me all these things about, they weren't sure if they were going to see me, and they were so grateful that they got to. And they were telling me how much, like, the YouTube channel means to them and how much it's helped them over the years. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do you do? What do you say? When you've made that much of an impact on somebody and you didn't even know it, And of course, they've said this in chat before, but it's different in real life. It's different in person when you get to hear that in words from that person in real life. So, yeah, I got some art from them. I got some poetry, and I got a nice little note from them, saying more as to how they felt about it. And I went back to my hotel room after that, and I opened that. I just had to take a moment, and I opened that card, and I read the note, and I read their poems, and I just started crying. I'm not joking. I sat there and I was just sniffling because of how beautiful it was and how much it meant, and just the weight of it all, feeling how much you have had, like, an influence on somebody's life. I just don't know. Like, I still get a little choked up when I think about it. It's really surreal. It is entirely surreal, and I would not replace it for anything. I should also mention that this individual had come with one of their parents, and at one point the mom took me aside and said, "You have no idea what you have done for him. Like, he has been looking forward to this for literally years, and he asked to come to A&E to meet you for Christmas. That's all he wanted for Christmas. And I gave the mom a hug, and I wanted to cry on her shoulder when she told me that. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, you're killing me. So, yeah, I had a lovely conversation with them both, and just hearing both of their perspectives, and, you know, seeing his mom just express how she felt as well, and how grateful she was, that made it all the more special. And yeah, so all this to say is, you never know, you truly never know what kind of an impact you're making on somebody when you do what you do best, you know, and everything that you put into your work, everything that you put into your purpose, and everything that you just pour into what you do best, it means a lot. It really means a lot to somebody, you know? Like, you have no idea what it means to somebody, really. You don't. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. I really don't. It's a lot, you know. It is very much a lot to process, and I am beyond grateful. I'm beyond thankful, and just so taken aback by it. And to those lovely individuals that I got to meet, you know, I just want to let you know, if you ever listen to this is why I do what I do. You know, it's because of you who make it the way it is, who make it what it should be, and who make it as special as it is, who make it worth it every single day, and who create an environment of love and care and kindness and joy. And I never want to lose that. You know, if it wasn't for those like you, I would not be here. I would not be doing what I do, and it wouldn't be as impactful, you know. The fact that there is a reach that I get to play. I get to, you know, I get to do this. I don't have to at all, actually. I want to. And I get to do this every day. And it's not for anything of a reward. It's because it means something, you know? And I want to do more. I want to do so much more. So I'm grateful for you both. Thank you for literally making my con. You did. That was the best part of A&E this year. Hands down. Paws down. That was the number one highlight that I will never, ever forget. So thank you both so much. I'm going to cherish those poems. I'm going to cherish that note. And I'm going to cherish that art, you know? So, man, reliving that in memory is a beautiful thing. I could never repay such a thing, you know? So, not to mention, excuse me, not to mention, there were many others that I got to meet over the weekend, who were able to come up to me and who gave me a hug and a picture and said hi to me, waved to me, you know, who were like, oh my gosh, it's you, you're here, I love your videos and I love what you do. And, you know, there were some who I had no idea were even there, like, oh my gosh, you're here too. And, you know, who I've met in the past, you know, those who I've met in the past and been able to interact with at other cons, you know, I got to see them. And like, I met so many of you at this con. I lost count. I know I say that every time, but I did lose count. And it's just, I want to cherish every single one of those interactions and remember them and remember those who were a part of it. So yeah, you all made my con special. Thank you for that. Thank you all, every single one, for taking the time to come up and say something, take a picture, give a hug. Yeah, you have no idea what it means to me. You really don't. If I could relive it all again, I would. But, that just gives us an opportunity to go forward and make new memories and be there together and have an impact on each other in our lives. And in turn, we can have an impact on the world. So that was pretty much A&E. That was the majority of the con. I am I'm also a little taken aback because I have a lot of cons on my roster every year. I can count on two hands how many cons I tend to go to every year, and I'm gonna have to add A&E now, so that's another one. Oh boy, I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but we'll see how it goes. I hope it works out. So the flight back was somewhat okay. The JetBlue services sent me an email saying, hey, winter storm warnings are expected, so your flight might be canceled. I was like, oh, great. That's perfect. Lovely. I can't wait for that. Turned out to not be canceled, thankfully. I got back to the airport in time. Everything was pretty smooth sailing, except for, of course, TSA returning home. I think I got the most stereotypical Boston individual in the TSA line. He had the accent, he had the tattoos, he was loud. Yeah, I know I'm stereotyping, I apologize, but this guy was the essence of Boston in every sense of the word. He was Boston incarnate, and a sentient being. He had everything that you would expect from someone from Boston. So, before I forget, I should mention I did get actual Dunkin' Donuts, which is really good. The donuts and the coffee, they tasted so different than here in Ohio. It was weird. I just got a regular glazed donut and a cup of coffee, and they were good. They were so good. They were warm, and they were nice, and fresh, and something about the bean water is just different, And I guess they don't mess around with their coffee and donuts there, because that was the originator of Dunkin' Donuts over in Boston. So getting to have actual Boston cuisine, that is Dunkin' Donuts, because they, I guess, take a lot of pride in Dunkin' Donuts over there. So good. I would highly recommend it. If you're ever in Boston, get real Dunkin' Donuts. Get it from the source, because it's like the water of life. You get it from the tap. It was definitely gave me life to the max. Also, I got New England clam chowder, and to some of you that might sound disgusting, but it was so good. Campbell's ain't got nothing on it. Oh my gosh, it was good. It was creamy. It was nice. It was nice and full, and just so good. And here's the thing. I'm not the biggest fan of seafood. I like some seafood, but I won't eat it in excess. But that clam chowder just hit different. It was full and nice, and it was just gourmet, Oh my gosh, clam chowder. Man, again, if you're ever in Boston, even if you're not a fan of seafood, try the clam chowder. They mean what they say when they get authentic clam chowder, because it comes straight from the shore right there. So, I'm pretty sure that those clams came in probably that same day, because it was fresh, nice and fresh, and I can tell it was never frozen. Even better. And that's the thing about Dunkin' as well. It's maybe that was it, because I guess Dunkin' around the globe, they excuse me, they freeze their donuts and then they defrost them, I think. But no, here, there in downtown Boston, it was fresh. They made them there. You could tell it was different, So maybe that was it. Maybe that's the rub right there. But same with the clam chowder. Never frozen, fresh, delicious. So very glad that I got to take part in that. Going through TSA, coming home. the essence of Mr. Boston there, and I excuse me, I had forgotten that I was still wearing my tail. So I had a belt on, right? And usually when I'm walking around in partial, I will wear like my nub tail and my fursuit head, and that's it. Like maybe some paws if I decide to, but yeah, I was just, for the last day on Sunday, I was going around, just getting some videos, saying hi to people, just kind of partialing or poodling, if you will. I don't really care about poodling. It is what it is. Like it doesn't. I don't think it breaks the magic. I think it's just a choice. You can do whatever you want when you fursuit. So, yeah, I was still wearing it when I left because I had some time to kill, and I just hung out in the hotel after I checked out, and I was getting some videos and saying hi and stuff, and just kind of getting the last few dribbles of the con that I could out of it. So I did, and yeah, I was wearing my tail, and I was walking through the airport with my tail on, and you know what? Nobody said anything. They stared. I'm pretty sure there's a little girl who pointed and said, "Mommy, look," but that was it. That was it, but that was, yeah, they didn't say a word. Even at TSA, they didn't say anything. They were just kind of like, "Oh, take it off. Just take off your belt, just like everything else." So I was like, all right, whatever. So yeah, I walked to the airports, both airports, going and coming, and I was wearing my tail, and I wore it on the plane too. So I know for a fact, because if any of you have ever flown before, you know the hassle it is to get into the plane with your bag. You are walking down this very narrow aisle, and you're passing through seats and seats of people. So at one point, my tail was probably to somebody's eye level. And they're probably looking at it like, what the frick is this? Like, oh my gosh, like what was with all these furry people, So I don't think any of them really knew. Though if there were any knowers on that flight, they didn't make themselves known. So, sometimes you gotta live a little bit. Sometimes you gotta live on the edge and be a rebel, right? What was the other thing? I had something and I lost it. Oh man, what was it? Oh yeah, so I didn't realize this, but the convention space, the hotel/con space, was connected to a comedy club. Okay, meaning that the entrance to the comedy club was outside, and it goes into the hotel lobby and into like a little like space off to the side from the lobby. And if any of you know the type of audience that goes to a comedy club, they can be a bit harsh. So we were standing outside in the lobby. Me and a friend were waiting to get some dinner because we had made reservations, and we were just kind of talking, checking our phones, and we look up and realize that there is a whole line of people outside of the comedy club, inside the lobby, right? Just waiting to go into the show. And they were just staring like unbelievable, like bug-eyed, like what is going on here? Who are all these people? And they were like taking pictures and like high-fiving people, which was really cool. And you can bet that some of those openers for the comedy sets that they had that night probably ragged on the furries a little bit. I bet you they did. Part of me wishes I would have gone in and like seen at least the first opening act and just hear if they had anything to say about the furries, because I would have loved to hear what they had to say. Oh my gosh, that would have been so cool just to kind of get their take and their comments. So didn't do that, but hey, maybe next time, So got home, and then flew into a horrible snowstorm, as they mentioned. Somehow we landed, but let me tell you something. The landing was hard. You know how sometimes if you're flying and then you land and then you can feel like the plane drifting a little bit? You can feel the plane just kind of fishtail. That's exactly what happened. Like we landed, the tarmac was wet and there was snow on it, and I just felt the plane just kind of do like a rrr, and I was like, oh boy. So we were holding on pretty hard. Like people like grabbed the front of the seat, and they were looking out the windows, kind of panicked a little bit. I was doing the same thing. I was like, So thankfully we got there safe. Thankfully we landed safe. Everybody was okay. There were no incidents, no injuries, nothing like that. And they got us out of there pretty quick. I was impressed. Yeah, we loaded up to the gate. We got out, got my bag in like less than half an hour. I was very impressed by that. So, but we weren't done yet. We were not done yet. I get picked up by the same friend who was kind enough to drive me. Once again, thank you for your sacrifice and your love for helping me out with that. But the ride home took about an hour and a half, whereas it would take normally 45 minutes. Think about that for a second. 45 minutes as opposed to an hour and a half, because the roads were terrible. Snow, ice. It was still snowing even leaving. This is like at 10 o'clock at night, thereabout. And like there were snowplows out, but it was still like just horrible. Like my friend drives a sedan, so getting that little car, through the passes and over the ramps and, onto different routes of the highways, it was not fun. I mean, we didn't even catch a break. Like there were some plowed areas, but they didn't last very long. And then it moved on to like a horribly, unkempt area of snow. And like we were sliding a little bit, spinning tires. It was not great. So I didn't realize this, but I was holding on to like the handbar in the car, like very tightly. And I looked up at my hand. I'm like, why am I doing that? It's, but nerves, I guess, no other way to say it. It was nerves. So thankfully we got back to my place safely and they got home safely. We are good. We made it. That was it. And I'm not going to lie. I got in to my house, checked everything, make sure, everything was locked, nothing was stolen, that kind of thing, the usual house checks. And then I promptly laid on the couch and passed out. And I woke up around 6 in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did absolutely nothing to prepare for the next day. So I got up at 6 a.m., didn't plan to do that, and I got things ready because I had to work today. Ugh, I know what you're thinking. Samson, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you not take today off? Well, just that reason. I didn't want to take more days off than I had to, and I need to save them for conventions and other things. And oh my gosh, like it was not fun getting up today. Post-con depression, getting back into the swing of things, back to reality. No, did not work out too well. And not to mention, today is MLK Day, so a lot of our services weren't even working. So yeah, a lot of people weren't working today, so it was a little difficult to get going. So you know how it goes. But yeah, today I was just kind of in a fog because I was like, I don't really want to be here. I don't really want to be here. I'm just tired. I'm depressed. Post-con depression, and oh man, but I had to leave early because of this, but also I had to go to the post office. Now I'm stupid because I didn't realize this. Apparently the post office is also closed on MLK Day, which sounds obvious, right? Of course it is. But the weirdest thing, I left early to go to the post office. I had to pick something up, but post office was closed. However, mail carriers were still out. Like they were still doing routes. That's weird. I figured everybody would have the day off today. So I don't know what that means, but I was like, okay. I pulled up to the door and it was closed. And I was like, oh crap, it is MLK Day. Why didn't I think about that? So I'm stupid for that, but still weird that there were letter carriers out and still doing their routes. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But hey, I got out of work early. That's what matters, Pardon me. So anyway, back to the reality of things. I have a lovely friend visiting this week, so it's going to be a good week. And yeah, I am coming back slowly to real life. It was a fantastic weekend for A&E and all the things considered. Just a magical time, and beautiful memories were made. And I just, yeah, I can't compare them. It's only the first one of the year, but it's so far the best, and I'm very grateful for what happened. So yeah, I think that's the podcast. I think that's it for today. I'm going to be going in here, getting some dinner with the friendos and saying hi to them, and I'm sure that they're wondering. As a matter of fact, my friend pulled up next to me not too long ago, and kind of looked at me like, what's he doing in there? It looks like I'm on the phone right now, like I'm taking a phone call. So I'll just let him know, like, it's a podcast. We're good. So yeah, I once again want to thank all of you who made A&E so special. Thank you for everything that you've done to be supportive. And for those of you who I met, especially that one individual and their mom, thank you for literally making my con and for showing that all of this is so worthwhile. You have no idea what you've done in my life. You have no idea how much you mean in my life. And I will continue to do what I do best. And it's because of you that I'm here, and I could not do it without you. So all of you listening to this, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I mean that with every fiber of my heart. Thank you so much. Everything that you've done for me. And as always, just remember the Latin phrase, Sic Parvis Magna. Remember your greatness from small beginnings. Remember those who brought you up and those who continue to stand by you today. Remember your origins and where you came from. And never forget the smallness to the bigness that it contributed to. And in the same way, be yourself, be you. Remember, there has never been anyone else like you in the world. There will never, ever be anyone like you in the future. And there will never, ever be, there has never been anyone like you in the past. So only you can do the things the way that you can, the way that you do best. The world needs you just as you are. And that's how you should do your journey. Just by yourself, as yourself, just being yourself. And just remember, there are those who will help you and those who will be with you during the journey. So I love you all. Thank you for listening. Have a great night, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Bye. Love you all. Meow.